Hi guys, welcome back to the Essex Fashion House channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Randy. Now, if you have ever thought about selling a bag or have already sold a bag and you have to ship it to your buyer, one of the most important things to do is to make sure that it's packed properly so it doesn't get damaged in the post and so it arrives safely. So today I'm gonna give you all the do's and don'ts of packing designer bags, or any bag for that matter, how to pack it in the best way, and how I pack my bags here at Essex Fashion House to make sure they get to their new home safely. So first of all, let's go through the list of things you need. First of all, you need a good quality box. And it is important that you use a box instead of a mailing bag. I cannot stress this enough. So many times mailing bags get ripped open or they get squashed in the mail and your bag ends up completely destroyed or completely bent out of shape. So use a good quality box. Secondly, you need packing tape, and it does have to be packing tape. Don't use any other types of tape. You need to make sure that it is super adhesive and will stay on the package in shipping. You'll need some tiny little tape, then you need some tissue paper, and you want some bubble wrap. And that's pretty much everything you need. You can interchange a few of these things if you need to, and I'll show you a few extra things that are nice to have as well, but these are just the standard things that will ensure you can pack the bag safely. I'll make sure to leave some links in the description of this video to all of the things that I use to pack my bags with and everything that I mentioned here. If I can't find the exact stuff that I use, I'll link to something similar. And now to actually packing the bag. The first thing you want to do is make sure the bag is clean and make sure that you've emptied it out from any personal belongings. I've heard horror stories of people sending out their IDs and other important stuff that you wouldn't want someone else getting their hands on and something that you might need. So please, please, please make sure to check all the pockets, all the little pockets inside. Make sure that you don't leave anything in the bag that shouldn't be in it. And then what I like to do is to take the strap of the bag and roll it up nicely so that it's rolled in the way that it's supposed to, so it doesn't get any kinks in it, and put it inside the bag so it'll be protected inside. And one thing you can also do is take off any little accessories that are hanging on the bag. For example, here we've got a Coach Rogue, and on this one you can see it has a clutchette and a little hang tag here. You could take these off and put them inside an inner pocket as well. And when I say that is because you want to make sure there's nothing sitting on the outside of bag that when it's packed is pressing against the leather, because you might end up getting dents in the leather from these things. Now what I like to do is I like to leave these on, but to wrap them in a soft wrapping. It's like a little plastic foam wrap that's kind of like what you get from the Coach store that is originally wrapped in. I like to wrap them in that, and then I place them here on top of the bag like that. So they won't be pressing onto anything, and even if they did, they are in soft foam, so it won't leave any indentations. But that is a very, very important step of packing the bag. And the same thing goes for handles on a bag. So one thing that is a big no-no for especially the Rogues is to pack the handles inside these outer pockets. I know it's tempting to do so. And you could probably get away with it just for the shipping purposes. But if you ever get a Rogue where the handles are tucked into the sides like that, make sure to take them out as fast as possible, because I think we've all seen the Rogues that have the U-shaped mark here, and that is actually from having the handles stored inside the outer pocket. So I don't like to pack my bags like that with the Rogues. Instead, what I do, I like to wrap the handles in some soft foamy tissue paper as well. You could use bubble wrap tissue paper, whatever you have that will protect them. I like to wrap them in that and then actually fold them like this on top of the bag. That works perfectly fine, and the bag is perfectly safe. The handles are safe. This also makes the bag a little bit easier to fit into a box as you have a square. But if the bag, like for some reason you don't feel like that makes sense on the bag, instead what I do is make sure to keep the handles upright. I do still wrap them in stuff, but make sure that they stay like this and don't get folded into or outside of the bag. And step 2, this is very important as well. I also say this for people who want to store their bags properly, is make sure to put stuffing inside of the bag. And I say this because you want to make sure the bag keeps its shape. It being slouched together or squashed into a box can make it lose its shape. I mean, imagine if that box was delayed in the mail and it sits for a month like that. You could get the bag out of the box and maybe not be able to correct the dents and crinkles in the leather you got from that. So it would just be such a shame for the bag to show up like that to your buyer. So make sure to stuff it. What I used to stuff them with is either bubble wrap or tissue paper, any kind of like packing material, those air pockets that you use for packing are very good as well. The only thing I will say is make sure that if you use like tissue paper, for example, use some that is acid-free and some that isn't like crazy colors that might rub off on the inside of the bag. And that is the biggest thing, is don't use newspaper. If you do use newspaper, make sure to put it inside like a plastic bag or something, then it can work fine. But the ink on the newspaper is just well known to rub off on the lining of the bag, and you don't want that to happen, of course. So my best recommendation is like packing bubbles, bubble wrap, packing pockets, or tissue paper. Of course, you could also be really fancy and get one of those really nice bag pillows that like fits the inside of the bag perfectly. Those things are great. And another important thing to remember in prepping the bag is if it comes with any little accessories such as like authenticity cards or receipts and stuff like that, I like to put them in the inner pocket of the bag because you know that they won't get lost anywhere. You could also put them in a separate envelope, whatever you want to do. But one thing is just make sure it's not mixed in with like any packing material in the middle, because you might have someone taking all the material out of the bag and then the little authenticity card just goes in the trash with it if they want to put their nice bag pillow inside or something. So make sure they're put in a safe spot. Even nicer, if you're in contact with your buyer, you could even send the buyer a message or leave a note in the box saying like, hey, all the authenticity cards are in the inner pocket, so it's easy for them to find. Now, after all of that, the bag is pretty much ready. Then I would say put it inside its original dust bag if it has one. If it doesn't have one, I like to just use a non-branded dust bag. You can buy those online. This is just a nice little layer of protection so that it's not in direct contact with the packing materials. A dust bag is not strictly necessary though. It's just a nice little extra thing, and it's also something nice for your customer or buyer to have to store their bag in if they want to take really good care of it. But if you just don't have one, it is not necessary. Don't worry about it. And then once you put it in the dust bag, I like to wrap it in one layer of bubble wrap. It looks nice and neat in the box. It won't come off. And you know that for sure, regardless of how any shipping materials move around, your bag will at least be in one full layer of bubble wrap. I will say if you don't have a dust bag, I would wrap it in a layer of tissue paper before the bubble wrap, just because if it's a leather bag and you wrap it in bubble wrap, you might see the bubble wrap actually leaving a little bit of an imprint of all the bubbles in the leather. And you can remove this. It's not like that will destroy the bag. I've received many bags like that, and you just give it a little polish and they're fine. But I do think it's nicer for the customer to open a bag and not have to first wipe it down from bubble wrap marks. So if you don't have the dust bag, I'd wrap it in a piece of tissue paper first. Again, do not use newspaper because it will get the ink on your leather bag and you don't want that. So do tissue paper or something similar. If you do have it in a dust bag, I just wrap it in a layer of bubble wrap first. Now you want to get your box ready. And so for a box, I always say go out and get yourself a nice box. But another good thing to use is like if you have the original box from the company, like this one, for example, is a box from Coach that I got a Coach bag in. They do really nice quality boxes. They're sturdy, and I like to reuse these. In general, I always say you don't have to spend the money on a new box. Use whatever boxes you have lying around. A shoe box can actually be a really good shipping box because they're often very sturdy. Some of them aren't, of course. A lot of the Amazon boxes are not so sturdy. But if you have a box that was used for something else, as long as it's clean and it's a sturdy box, please reuse that box. It's totally fine. You don't need to go out and buy a brand new shipping box. But of course, if you don't have anything lying around or you don't have anything you want to get rid of, it is worth spending a few dollars getting a proper box just to make sure that the bag doesn't get squashed in the mail. And what's really important when you choose a box is to make sure that it is slightly bigger than the item you're putting inside of it. This might seem super simple and common sense, but I cannot tell you the amount of times I've received bags shoved into boxes that were not big enough for it, and you end up with a crimped in bag that has creases in the leather and so on and so on. So make sure the box is slightly bigger than the bag. Take any handles or stuff that pokes out of the bag into account when you consider which box to use as well. And then how I like to pack them, you don't have to do this, but I like to put a layer of tissue paper that folds out on the sides so that you can later fold that over the whole thing, and it gives you a nice neat look when they first open up the box. Of course, this isn't necessary, but it's a nice way to start. So I do that, and then I put the bag in the middle of the box here, and then you want to fill the box with packing materials around the bag. Make sure that it's snug in there so it can't move around, but don't squash anything in too tight because again, you don't want anything that can leave dents in the leather. But a really good thing to use is again bubble wrap, tissue paper, any old packing material. I like to reuse packing material as well. As long as it's clean, there's nothing wrong with it. You might as well reuse it. It's better for the environment and it will save you a few dollars as well. So it all helps. And yeah, the most important thing is to make sure there's so much packing material in there that the bag won't move even if you shake the box around, so that like if it falls on the floor, it won't move in the box. It is perfectly protected. That is the most important thing. And don't squash it. So it's the good middle road there. Make sure it doesn't move, but don't squash it. Then you want to fold over the tissue paper and close the box, tape it up. Make sure, like I said, make sure to use proper packing tape. You don't need a fancy dispenser like this, although this is a time saver for sure. If you have a business like me, get one of these. It will save you so much time. But use proper packing tape, because I have received boxes packed with all kinds of different tape, and I'll tell you what, like if you use these little Scotch tape, tiny ones, that won't hold the bag closed, and you might end up with an empty box or a box where it's a miracle the bag is still in there. I received one box that was packed with painter's tape. That is not very adhesive, and almost all of it came off the box. The box was open when it got here, and the shipping label was attached only by a tiny little corner because the painter's tape just doesn't hold it well enough. So make sure you use proper packing tape or some other tape that you know will stick to the box for the entire journey. And then of course, finally, make sure that you put your shipping label on there really well. If you print your label yourself, use the packing tape again to make sure that it's on there really well. I also know that for some couriers say to not put clear tape all the way across the label. A lot of people do that, but some couriers actually tell you not to do that. So make sure not to do that if those are the rules of that courier company. You don't want to risk your package not being sent out properly. And yeah, most importantly, make sure that the box is taped up really nice. I like to tape up all of the sides and corners and stuff just so there are no open crevices where dirt or rain can get into. It shouldn't be necessary, but I just like to do it anyways, just to be extra safe and also to make sure the shipping label is attached properly. And those are the most important things, but I do have a few extra things I want to mention. For example, if you are reusing boxes, make sure that any old addresses are crossed out or covered up with tape. Make sure that if there are any barcodes left on that box, to rip them off if it's a sticker, or draw over them, or make sure they're not visible to the courier, because you don't want to cause any confusion as to which barcode is the right one, and you might have a or you might have a box end up somewhere it wasn't supposed to. And then finally, I just have a few little recommendations for if you, like me, have a small business, for example, you ship out a lot of stuff. A real game changer for me has been getting, well, first of all, this tape dispenser is amazing, but also a label printer. So if you print your own labels, it is such an easy way to do it, to have the label printer. I have a little thermal printer. It's this really cute color and everything. I love it. It is so fast. And that way you have a sticker to stick on your box instead of having to print it out and tape it onto the box. Of course, this is not necessary at all, and especially if you're only selling a bag here and there, then you don't need this. But if you do have a small business and you send a lot of stuff out, I could definitely recommend it. And another thing I'll recommend is if you ship internationally and you have to fill out customs forms, often you have to fill out forms and attach them to the outside of the package next to the label. And what I will say is, these are great. So these are little customs forms pockets where you put your papers in here, rip this little thing off, close it down, then you pull off or peel off this white page, and it's all adhesive, so you just stick it on the box. That works great. But if you don't have these, if you can only buy big packs of these and you don't have that much to ship out, or if you just run out, a really good thing to use instead is just a Ziploc bag from your kitchen or a little freezer bag. Just make sure to put your documents in and then tape all the way around on the box. Make sure the documents are still visible in there. That's the most important thing, and that they won't come off. So I have sent many bags out with Ziploc bags on the box instead of these professional little pouches. So that's just another good little tip for you. So this is how I pack all of my bags here at Essex Fashion House, and I hope that this gave you a good idea of how to pack your bags safely and it was helpful. Again, I will leave links to all the stuff in my description so you can find something similar, if not the same things, if you need it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you found this helpful, because I will be posting a lot more videos like this. I'm working on one that talks about how to store your bags the safest way as well. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.